Today, a field trip. Two actually, which are often done together, Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks. These parks are icons of the United States, visited by millions each year. Literally millions of people. The parks are busy during the summer season, but they're also quite large, so you still have plenty of space to spread your wings and do some quality hiking, photography, dining, and sightseeing. The history of each of these two parks is well documented, so I don't want to turn this video into a history lesson. Rather, I want to share with you my experiences with the parks. I'll try to give you some idea as to their size and features and let you know what I'll be doing when I go back, because I'm definitely going back. For my first trip there, I stayed at Jackson Lake Lodge within Grand Teton National Park. I know, I love camping and being out with nature in a tent and all that good stuff, but for my first trip, at least, I pampered myself just a bit so that I could start every day early and ready to go. And honestly, the campsites were full, and I could only get a room at Jackson Lake Lodge. I was booking about a month ahead of time, but this place is so busy that you really do have to book well in advance. Not only would this trip have two great locations that I would focus on, two cameras made the trip with me as well, including the recently released Nikon D500. In fact, this would be the greatest test of my D500 to date. And it did not disappoint one bit. More about the camera gear that I brought in this video at the link above. So first of all, if you go to one of these parks or to both, bring a camera and bring a sense of adventure and a sense of discipline. Discipline? Yes, and here's why. If you go to these parks, you're going to see wildlife, bison, deer, plenty of smaller animals like coyotes and foxes and even moose and bears. The discipline is needed because you'll see a lot of people trying to get in close to the animals. Too close. Signs in the park provide guidance on distance, both for your safety and the safety of the animals. People like looking at animals, and some animals definitely like looking at people. Me and the National Park Service are big believers that people and animals should not interact, though. Stay back 100 yards or more from bears and wolves and 25 yards from everything else. I know I'm starting off the video with a safety warning, which isn't a lot of fun, but it does need to be said. I want all of you snap chickens coming home in one piece from all of your great field trips. Those animals, they may look like they want to snuggle, but I can assure you that they don't. Don't worry though, there's good news. As a photographer, staying back is your big excuse to bring, rent, or buy a lens that will get you in super close while you stay back. In fact, these parks truly are a photographer's paradise for landscape photography, telephoto, and everything in between. Seriously, I know it's a cliche, but these parks are a feast for the eyes, and really all of your senses. Whether it's a sunrise or sunset at Grand Teton, one of the many hot springs in the park, or some bison chilling in the sun, there's always something to see and hear. You'll smell the sulfur and warm air at the hot springs, and you'll taste great food at the lodges and concession areas. Everywhere you look, there's something else to marvel at. And the sound of the wild is ever changing within the parks. Water, wind, silence even. Also, if you're as much city as you are country, you'll find more modern accommodations, shops, and more at Jackson, Wyoming to the south and Bozeman, Montana to the north. For my trip, I flew into Bozeman, but I worked all the way south to Jackson during the trip. I did rent a car for the trip. There are other options like touring companies, but I'm pretty impulsive and I don't mind going a long way in a single day, so a car was the best option for me. My mom always said that I was independent. I don't like having to stick to someone else's schedule. Now, between Bozeman and Jackson, where did I go? As many places as I could. I will tell you something. I was in these parks for 5 days total, and I feel like I just barely scratched the surface. I started in Bozeman and immediately made a beeline for Jackson Lake Lodge. This means that I drove all the way through Yellowstone and through much of Grand Teton. It took hours, and it was extremely scenic. That said, I was glad to get to the lodge and nest and rest up for the night. You're not exactly roughing it at any of the lodges in the park. Some have more amenities than others. I loved Jackson Lake Lodge for its fabulous views, cabin-style cottages, and Wi-Fi. I could get up early in the mornings, capture fabulous sunrises, then duck inside for some coffee. What could be better? And did I mention the Wi-Fi? They had really good Wi-Fi. It wasn't long though before I started stretching my legs a bit. I took 2 extended hikes during this trip. One hike went partially around the circumference of Jenny Lake, which is smaller than Jackson Lake, but just as beautiful. I saw the lake from different viewpoints, water rushing down to meet the lake, trees, and even a snake. But I was too busy running away from it to take a photo, so sorry about that. It was quite warm in the middle of the day, so I hid in the shade sometimes to cool down. You definitely want to bring water with you when you hike in the summer. The second hike gave me the most variety from a photography standpoint. Dense woods, huge lakes and clearings, and fabulous views of the mountains, and people hiking and boating. Everyone I saw looked like they were having a great time. But remember, the ones who really had the most fun were the ones who stayed back from the wildlife. Now, if you're not the hiker type, there are still plenty of shorter walks that you can take, even just right off the main roadways. I parked in a small pull-out parking area and walked just a few steps to see this incredible waterfall, one of the many in the parks. If you are a hiker or a mountaineer, these parks offer some of the best in the country. There were so many different areas of the park, different trails, different destinations. There truly is something for everyone. If you like to boat, you can boat, motorized or not. And if you just like to sit and put your feet up, there are plenty of places for that as well. After the gorgeous lakes and mountains in Grand Teton, I was off to Yellowstone for the green fields, some more mountains, wildlife, and the legendary hot springs. A trip to Yellowstone is not complete without a trip to Old Faithful. It's probably the site that Yellowstone is most famous for. A ginormous geyser that goes and goes, approximately every 90 minutes, thousands of gallons at a time, for up to 5 minutes at a time, at a height of almost 200 feet in the air. It's quite a spectacle. I watched it once with the crowds on the ground, and then 90 minutes later, I was atop a nearby mountain shooting both wide angle and telephoto to capture the whole environment from a different vantage point. Old Faithful draws big crowds, and it didn't disappoint. And surrounding Old Faithful, and in other areas of the park too, are many more hot springs and geysers. They're fantastic, but like the wildlife, stay back. There are boardwalks and trails near all of the springs and geysers. As long as you're on those paths, you're doing it right. Stray from them, and you'll be trampling on delicate natural features. And no joke, you can easily get killed by the boiling water. A guy actually died while I was in the park because he simply fell in. So stay back and zoom in if you want to see up close. I spent a long time at both the Old Faithful area and at the legendary Mammoth Hot Springs area. Mammoth is a true three-dimensional adventure of boardwalks and steps. And down in the town of Mammoth, you'll find old school charm, snacks, and some four-legged residents who often pass through. The biggest surprise for me on this trip was called the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. Now I'm going to tell you something. As someone who frequents Grand Canyon National Park, I'm extremely skeptical when I hear about the Grand Canyon or this or that. I actually snickered to myself a little bit as I pulled into one of the parking areas, and then I walked up to the rim, and I was positively amazed. While not as long or as deep as Arizona's Grand Canyon, the minerals stained the walls, and the deep, rich hues of the waterfall falling down and then carving through the canyon, well, it put my own eyesight, mind, and camera to the test. The wind whipping through me and by me as the sun was beating down. It's a true sensory overload, and you'll really have to be there to experience it. There are views from each side, hiking trails, and you're surrounded by everything that makes the park great. Like I said before, there are many waterfalls in these parks, in addition to the lakes, rivers, and streams. I think that water is the unsung hero of these parks. Grand Teton has the mountains, but the water often reflects them. Yellowstone has the lush green grass, hillsides, and wildlife, but again, water. Water that falls, water that flies, and water that cuts. You guys know that I've got my favorite parks. I talk about the Grand Canyon quite a lot, but I also know that I need to push myself to new places, or I'll just go to my favorite places over and over again. After all, how can you find new favorites if you don't push your own limits? On this trip, I'm glad I did. For one, I was blown away. And for two, as I mentioned earlier, I'm already planning to go back later this year. You can bet that I'll have an update then, both for some of the places that are more familiar, but a large part of my second journey will be venturing deep into some of the trails and less frequently seen places in these parks. Until then, I still have plenty more photos to review and to post, trail maps to study, and I need your suggestions if you've been to these parks. While I like to discover some of my own adventures, your tips, your accounts, and your photos can definitely help to steer me in some great directions. So please do share your experience. Then we can compare notes later.